When was the last time that you gave power to your creative voice? Did it feel like the echo of your soul coming back home? Roda a vinheta. Hello there, dear friend. I'm Frederico Forte, and welcome to Fortify Forte, a space where we are getting together to share practices, tidbits of knowledge of over 30 years being an artist, being an educator in the arts, and also arts program manager. Last week, I talked to you guys about taking that essential pause before we get into that burnout or before we are starting a new project. You can check it in the channel's playlist, and of course, subscribe and like it. Look forward to keep sharing all of this content with you. This week, we are talking about the echo. Yes, the resonance, what comes from that pause, and how we start to really shape our neural pathways and give rhythm. The rhythm that we need internally now starts to really come through in our creative practices. So neuroscientists that study states of mindfulness and meditation on the human brain say that the brain gets back to its default network mode, a state of ease where it can reorganize itself, extend and expand imagination, reconnect pathways. So that means that the echo that we hear in stillness is not nothing. It's actually, our brain reorganizing itself and restoring itself so that we can continue to extend those states of flow. And there are times where we trust that echo, when we are in the flow, when we can access that flow easier in our careers. But then there are times that things are a little bit harder. I certainly have been through that in all of those 30 plus years of being an artist. I can think of different reasons why there were times in my trajectory when I wasn't listening to my inner voice, or when I didn't really have that confidence to track forward, when life just gets rough and you cannot find all of the answers. But one common thread that I found is that in all of those times, what got me back to my creative practice, to the space that I love to be, right, was due to my ability to be in a state of play so just grabbing a guitar, grabbing an instrument without the pressure of being in a rehearsal, without the pressure of having to perform or to do something, but just being in the moment with that instrument, having some fun, not performing for anybody. And then simplicity. So play and simplicity. And why do I say simplicity? Because eventually what would happen in that state is that I would stumble into either a chord progression or a melody or a rhythm or an idea, and that would cause an inner smile, the aha moment. Scientists will say, yes, that's our right frontal lobe that is lighting up right in that moment of flow. So that inner smile, that aha moment really came back to me because I allow myself play and simplicity. I wasn't seeking something. Instead, it really came to me, and playing that motif, that idea over and over and over again. So creating that echo, right? I'm listening and listening and listening to that. As a songwriter, what would always happen is that eventually I would hear one word, and that word would become one sentence. And then the sentence requires a counter sentence, and then I have a whole verse, and then two verses, and then a chorus, and voila, a new song emerged from a state of play and a state of simplicity, and allowing the music to talk, allowing the music to take first stage, right? So I'm once again in that flow of the nada, the nothing, the bhagwan that I talked about on the previous episode. And one thing that you're gonna hear me talk about often is harmonious complexity, this concept that I coined just to help me go through the chaos, the changes that we are experiencing living today in this postmodern world, and we have to establish our own grounding practices that will enable this resiliency to be a constant, this inner fire. That's why behavioral economists, they attest that when we build practices, companies, routines that are aligned to our intrinsic motivators, really the work becomes lighter, it flows, and productivity grows. So let's get into today's practice, which really has to do with resonant mapping. I'm gonna call the practice the echo. It's fairly simple, check it out. So when we allow ourselves to do something that we love, right? That we are obsessed about, the time flows, etc., the brain releases dopamine and intensifies the myelin around those neural pathways. And what that means is that you're really wiring yourself for a state of flow. And then if you journal immediately after that activity, you're going to be telling your hippocampus, you're going to allow your hippocampus to store that hard memory. You're going to build a 1-2 punch, strengthen that resiliency and that joy in your practice. There you go, super simple. Gonna require 15 minutes of your time today. You're gonna need a sheet of paper and a pencil. I want you to think about 3 things that really make you completely lose track of time. 3 things that bring you so much joy, right? Write them down. Yes, you don't even check your phone when you're doing those 3 things, right? For me, for example, it could be creating a beat on my drum machine, or doing a little bit of editing on my computer when I'm editing some sounds and doing some music production. I lose track of time so easily. Another thing that makes me lose track of time is just sitting on the drum set and banging away. So I could, for example, write those 3 things and pick one of them. Now I want you to set a timer of 10 minutes for yourself. And in those 10 minutes, I want you to do that thing that makes you lose track of time. Do it. You know, pick one of those 3 things, and for 10 minutes you're gonna do that. When 10 minutes go by, immediately grab the pen and start writing. And for about 5 minutes or so, free flow, no agenda, no questions to be answered, just write anything that starts coming out of your brain. All right? Just no matter what it is. And that's the practice, that's the resonant mapping. Once again, we are allowing that dopamine to flow, we are forming those neural pathways. And here's the thing, right? When we do this practice, when we really start to listen and to anchor ourselves, innovative ideas come up more easily. We may forge new relationships because that state and that intrinsic motivator just starts to exuding that joy and that confidence in your practice. So that's what we're doing. We are flexing the muscle of joy, flexing the muscle of confidence through techniques that are proven by neuroscientists to help us really chart a long-term career in the arts where we don't feel burned out, but instead we feel rejuvenated. And that's where creativity meets livelihood. Money will come, but we need to have the right foundation for it to be sustainable. If you like the vibe and you got something from this conversation, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel, to give a like to this video. Please leave a comment if you tried this practice, if something came up for you, and I would love to hear if you have suggestions of things that you'd like me to talk about. Come here and share concepts that are based in science and my experience. So I wish you a fruitful, creative week ahead. This is Fortify by Forte. It's been a pleasure. See you next time.